It's that time again. Welcome to the best webinar in town, HumanWare Live. Let's introduce your host from the windy city of Chicago, currently sheltering in place. Please welcome HumanWare's brand ambassador of blindness products, Peter Tusick. And from all the way across the pond, also sheltering in place, but doing so with everyone's favorite accent, please welcome HumanWare's Braille product manager, Andrew Flattress.
Now we're talking. How's it going, everybody? This is Peter Tusick, brand ambassador of blindness products, and I am glad to be here. I am joined by none other than the very well introduced Andrew Flattress. What's up, Andrew?
Oh, cool. How's it going over there?
How'd you like that intro?
Oh, that was awesome. That was something new, something fresh.
We try to get a little more professional every week, and that wasn't we. That was our friend Nick Ray Harris. But we are glad to be here. There's a lot of things we want to show everyone today. So this is the fourth installment of HumanWare Live. We are live on YouTube. We have had some issues going live on Facebook, so hopefully this should be rectified sooner than later, but we are live on YouTube and we'll be sharing that out to Facebook as well. So bear with us with some of our non-Zoom methods of watching this live. We will get those under control. Today we are going to look at math and math and math and math. So there are four pieces of math that we'll look at. Firstly, we're going to look at creating some math content. Secondly, we're going to edit that content within Keyword. And then thirdly, we're going to look at the Nemeth code and UEB symbol selector, as well as looking at how we can insert templates into a keyword document. Then I'm going to throw it over to Andrew all the way across the pond, and he is going to show a workflow for getting math content to your student. Basically what he'll show you is how to take math type in Microsoft Word, create math equations, and then import them into Duxbury so you can easily send them to your student and have your student work with them using KeyBRF, and then your student can answer work within Keyword. So again, just a way for the work to flow. We know that many of you are not with your students. Many of you need to get content to and from, and you can't just attach some Braille to something. You might not have an embosser at home, right? So you can't mail it to them or get it to them easily. So we're going to try to show you a workflow that will allow you to get it to your students. All right, I am going to take over screen sharing here. And when I do that, we're going to grab my screen. And what I'm going to do is share my screen. We're going to share my sound. And remember, my JAWS is going to start babbling. And I'm going to full screen button. Speech on demand. All right, Andrew, can you hear my speech? I hope so.
Yes, I can.
All right, rock and roll. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in and we're going to go right into creating this math content. So again, typical workflow on how we can show work. And I'll talk about the easiest ways to really get that content shared and kind of the methodologies and why we do things the way we do. This won't be the only way to put math in, but it's going to make the most sense in terms of getting it to look nice for our sighted math teachers, for our parents, for people who want to see what we're doing. So I'm going to open the word processor. I'm on the main menu. I am going to press the letter W to find the word processor.
Word processor, keyword.
All right, and we're going to press enter.
Keyword menu.
And
create.
I am going to press enter on create. And again, these steps that I'm about to follow are going to apply to the BrailleNote Touch as well as the BrailleNote Touch Plus. It's very important. There have been no changes to the way KeyMath is implemented. So let's press enter.
Edit box.
All right, we are in a new blank keyword file. Now, what I need to do here is, this is our standard just docx document, right? It's a Microsoft Word file. We're in keyword. I'm going to write my name at the top of my paper. My name is Peter Tusick. I'm going to press enter.
New line.
And I'm going to write today's date. So I'm going to write 3.
A.
Actually, let's do
I delete .4. A. BJ.
All right, BJ meaning 2020. So 3/31/2020. Going to press enter.
March 31st, 2020.
And I am going to type again, I'm creating the header for this assignment. So we're at the top of our file. I'm just working in literary Braille. So we're going to write that this is math.
A dots 1 dot A P T dots 1 C 3 R E V I E W R.
Right.
Review.
So again, our name, our date, and a header on our paper. Going to press enter.
Review. End of document.
And now at this point, what I'm going to do is I want to enter content into my file. There are many ways to do this, but visually, when we look at the visual representation, it's best to put our numbers separate from our images, and this will make sense as I roll. So what I want to do is I'm going to write this as number 1. So I'm going to type number 1 period.
A dots 2 5 6.
This is not in Nemeth. I'm using regular literary Braille because I am in a literary document, right? So I type number 1, I press enter and come down a line. And now I've come down a line. I'm on a new blank line below the number 1. And I'm going to come into KeyMath to enter math content. To quickly get into KeyMath, I can use the shortcut backspace with the letter M as in math. That command also lives in the context menu. So if I come into the context menu, we will have under the editing functions, you will see insert math and it will say backspace and M. So when I press backspace with M, I will hear a couple of things.
Edit box, blank. Nemeth, math typesetting mode.
So right now I heard that I'm in a new blank edit box and I heard Nemeth, or as this TTS says, Nemeth. And I hear that we're in math typesetting mode. Now there are 2 things to make note of here. One is I'm working in Nemeth code. I could very easily work in UEB math if I wanted to. The way that we switch to UEB math, so if you're in here right now and yours is set to UEB and you want it to be in Nemeth, or if yours is in Nemeth and you want it to be in UEB, you can do that from within the context menu. So in the context menu, if I press space with M as in math or menu.
Context menu. Find
right?
Space with F.
This would be my context menu specific to KeyMath. But if I want to change that preferred Braille grade, I need to come down to settings.
Save a copy, settings.
So I press S a couple of times and I press enter or a cursor router key in here.
Preferred Braille code. Preferred Braille code, Nemeth.
Mine will show that my preferred Braille code is Nemeth. And if I press enter here, then I would go in and I could change that to UEB or the French math code as well. So again, or raw, kind of raw Braille. But that is where you can switch from Nemeth to UEB. And that will do that in the menu. So we do fully support both. I'm going to press my triangle, my back
Edit box, blank.
or space with E and come back into my blank KeyMath window. So again, we pressed backspace with M, we heard it said Nemeth, and then we hear it will either say math typesetting mode, which is what I want, or graphing calculator mode. And we switch between those modes by pressing enter with the letter G. We're not going to talk about graphing calculator mode yet, but we will at some point in the HumanWare Live with Braille webinar series. But if I press enter with G,
graphing calculator
we
mode.
hear that it says graphing calculator mode. We don't want that. We are showing math content. So I'm going to press enter with G again and just make sure
Math typesetting mode.
that we're in math typesetting mode. Okay, so we are in KeyMath, and anything I type here in Nemeth code will be shown in proper print. And so if I type something simple like, oh, I don't
Dots
know,
3, 4, 5, K, dots 2, 3.
Again, I'm muting my speech, so 3 plus 3 equals 6, because I know it was talking over me. What I can do is I type 3 plus 3 equals 6 in Nemeth code. If I press space with the letter C, so as in current, space with the letter C, it will read my current line out loud.
3 plus 3 equals 6.
And I can make sure that that math is correct. And then when I press enter, that math will be shown visually.
New line.
So now visually on the right side of the screen, you're seeing that every time I press enter, I'm building this math equation. Generally, this is, again, you're getting that instant feedback. So generally you're going to use this to show your work, as much as we really despise showing our work and us being blind math participants, right? We always want to do math in our heads and we're really good at it until we're not. And so showing our work is very important to get that instant feedback. The key here is anything I type into KeyMath will be shown as with that proper visual output when I press enter. There's also another way which we'll cover. But if I type another line of math here, so let's just say, I don't know, again, this could still in theory be part of number 1, but let's just say I write, I don't know, 4
dots 2 5 6.
Let's do something like 4 times
dots
4
dots 2 3 5.
Now, what will happen here is, again, space with C
4 times 4 equals 16.
reads my current line so I can make sure that it's correct. And it's very important that I do that, because if my Nemeth code or my UEB math is not correct, it will not look right. I promise you. I get a lot of emails from teachers who say, and students who say, this math just isn't working. KeyMath doesn't work and the math isn't generated. And it's because the Nemeth code or the UEB math that is being used is not done correctly. So again, every time I press enter, I generate that visual. Once I've generated the visual that I want to put in my keyword document, I can export this content. So again, I've generated the lines of math that I want to export, and I can export them by pressing backspace with the letter E. And what that does is that takes my visual, this picture, and it exports it to the clipboard, and it puts my focus back in my keyword document. So backspace with E will export this math.
Move to clipboard. Edit box.
All right.
Chapter.
And what I can do is I want to just make sure if your focus moves, your cursor will stay where it belongs when you left keyword, but just in case it didn't, press your 4, 5, 6 with space.
Bottom.
Just make sure you're back at the bottom of your file in this case, because I want to put this underneath the number 1. And I can now paste my clipboard. So backspace with the letter V will paste my clipboard or paste that image into my file.
End of document. Pasted.
All right, and now, I have an image in my file that contains math. So number 1, what I will feel if I use my inner thumb keys and read this in Braille, I have number 1, I have a new line marker or new line indicator, your 1246P. Then I have the start of an image, because again, the image, the visual is the math. The actual Braille is here for me as a Braille reader. So I have 3 + 3 = 6 on one line and 4 × 4 = 16 on the second line. My cursor is still at the bottom of my file. My cursor is not in that image. We're going to edit these images in a moment, but let's make one more before we do that. So I'm going to press enter. We're now going to make number 2. So I'm going to write number 2, period.
B dots 2 5 6.
I'm going to press enter.
2.
And now I'm going to come back into KeyMath. So backspace with M, and we're going to make another equation.
Image start. Edit box.
Right.
Blank. Nemeth. Math type setting
I'm
mode.
going to try this again.
Edit box.
We're going to come down
Image
to the bottom of our
start.
file below our number
Bottom.
2. We're going to press backspace with M.
Edit
And we're going to
box.
pull ourselves back
Blank.
into KeyMath. I accidentally hit
Nemeth. Math type setting mode.
accidentally hit a button there that threw my cursor, and we'll talk about editing these in a moment. But again, I'm now on my second math problem that I'm trying to show. So here, let's just say I want to solve for X. So we'll go slow. We're going to do 3X
Dots dot
plus
X
4
dots dot B dot K dot dots 2 3 5.
16. So 3X plus 4 = 16. I'm going to press enter.
New line.
We're going to then again 3X
Dot
plus
dot
4
X
minus
dot
4.
dot B dot K dot dots 2 5.
And I'm muting my speech. 3X plus 4 minus 4 = 16 minus 4. Again, we're just showing our work.
New line dot dot X B dots 4 dot dots 2 3. New line dot dot X dot dots 2. Braille dots dot dots 2 5.
So again, we are showing these steps. If you're not following me, I'm just solving for X here. So 3X divided by 3 = 12 divided by 3.
New
And
line.
then X
B
equals
dot K dots 2 5. New line.
right. And every time I press enter, we're generating that visual. So I'm going to export this math by pressing backspace with E.
Move to clipboard.
My
Edit
focus
box. End of
is then placed at the bottom of my file, right where my cursor was when I left to go into KeyMath. So I'm right under number 2. I press backspace with V, as in paste, like it is on a keyboard, right on a computer, Control V. So backspace V. And
Pasted.
now I've put another image in my file. And again, I do this as many times as I need to. The reason why we're putting separate images in is the spacing will get crazy. We want this to fit nicely on a printed page if we need to print this out. Also, I recommend putting them in their own images, each problem as its own image, because if you need to comment on your student's work, it will be a lot easier if your student's able to grab one problem at a time, as opposed to grabbing a problem that might contain 10 or 12 lines of math that might be 3 problems per image, and then trying to edit the proper one. You don't have to do it this way, but I definitely would recommend it. Another thing is, if you're getting weird boxes or weird images, when you look at the visual preview, we're about to look at the visual. If you're seeing weird boxes, that means the Nemeth has not been entered correctly. And for all of our students out there and anyone who's a user as opposed to a teacher, always use space with C to check those lines of math before you press enter. If it's not spoken right, if you don't hear math speak, you are not going to get a good visual. So it's going to look funky. And I see it all the time. So again, if I come down a line, we could then go and write number 3 and so on. But what if I want to see what this document looks like visually? So if I want to see visually, what is my teacher going to get when I print this? Or as the teacher, what does this full document look like? If when I'm in keyword, so I've put those images in, but the visual is just simulated Braille, right? The visual is not the picture. It's not the actual picture we saw, but I can show you what the document would look like with the visual Braille. And I did this last week when we looked at a little bit of formatting, like centering lines and some of that. We know that to create a visual preview, a quick visual representation, we can press enter with the letter V.
Preview ready. Open with Drive PDF Viewer.
And we want to choose Drive PDF Viewer to create the preview, and we can say just once. So again, we're using Drive PDF Viewer to create the preview.
Always just once.
We press enter
Button.
on just once.
Drive. Navigate up. Button.
And now there will be a visual of this document as it would look for the teacher. And this is really important. Again, we are not sending this document anywhere. We are not printing this or anything. This is only a preview. The document we want to save and send is the Microsoft Word file that we're using Keyword to create. This is only used, this preview, when we press enter with V, is only used so that we can show you, as someone who is sighted, a parent, a teacher, what our document will look like. To get out of the preview, I press space with E.
Edit box.
And I can carry
End
on,
of document.
carry on with my document. I can put more math images in here and so on. But what I'm always asked is, what happens if we make a mistake? So I send this file to my teacher, and my teacher at the bottom of my file says, you know what, Peter, number 1, you did put 3 + 3 = 6, but you were supposed to put 4 + 4 = 8 in that first line. And what, you need to fix that. I'll say, all right, no problem. So in my document, remember, I have 2 images in here, number 1 and number 2. What I can do is, if I want to correct math, I need to select the appropriate image. So I find that before 3 + 3 equals, before 3 + 3 = 6, what I had, here, let me come up. What I have is a $sign IMS, and $sign meaning 1246 in computer Braille, much like you have a 1246P to show new line, or 1246R to show right justified, and so on. 1246 IMS means image start. And at the end of each image, I have a 1246 IME, as in image end. So if I put my cursor on the start,
Image start.
of the image that I want to correct, so right before my 3 + 3, what will happen is we'll hear it say image start out loud using the TTS, and I can press backspace with M, and all of the math that is inside this image will be repopulated into KeyMath. So I'm going to press backspace with M.
Edit box. Blank.
And
Nemeth. Math typesetting mode.
it brings me into KeyMath, and my cursor is now at the beginning of these 2 lines of math that were contained within that image. So I can now make an edit, like changing it to
Dots
4
3,
plus
dots 2, dots 2, Braille's dots 2,
equals
new
8.
line, dots 2, dots 2, 3,
And
6.
you just kind of heard my cursor speaking as I moved it around the line of math. Now I've changed this in Braille, but if I want to update the visual preview without pressing enter, because we don't want to start putting new lines all over KeyMath, or we're going to have all sorts of craziness going on. If you just make a change on a line of math and you want to update the visual preview, press enter with V, and it will update that visual preview. So once I put in my
Braille
4 plus
space
4
dots
equals 8,
2, new line.
I press enter with V,
4 plus 4 equals 8.
and now I've made a correction, right? I've changed this image or this preview to being 3 plus 3 equals 6 is now 4 plus 4 equals 8. So I've come into KeyMath, I've made my changes, I've updated that visual, and I press backspace with E to export this new image to my clipboard.
Move to clipboard. Edit box. Image start.
And now my cursor remains on the start of the old bad image. So there are two things. I need to get rid of this old image to paste in the new image. I can either move after it and backspace it, but what's easier is because my cursor is already on the beginning of the image that I made a correction on. So it's at the beginning of that image that I pulled back into KeyMath. I can press backspace with dots 3, 6. That is the command to delete what is under your cursor. In this case, this whole image is under my cursor. And when I do this, when I press backspace with 3, 6,
Alert delete math object.
it asks me if I want to delete the math object. And this is very important. You cannot inadvertently delete a math object. You have to confirm that you want to delete it. So I know it's easy to say that it just kind of disappeared. But if it's a math object, you have to tell it to disappear. So we're deleting the old image and it's saying, are you sure you want to delete this math image? Because you're not getting it back if you do. And we're going to say, okay.
Bottom. No.
So we say
Yes.
press Y
Button.
to move to yes, or use our next thumb key, press enter.
Edit box.
Boom. The old image is gone, and now I will paste my correction. So backspace with V, my cursor is still in that same spot.
Pasted.
And now I have fixed that image. So now number 1, instead of it saying 3 plus 3 equals 6, number 1 now says 4 plus 4 equals 8 on the top line, and then 4 times 4 equals 16 on the second line. Again, to look at that visual preview, enter with V.
1. Open with Drive PDF viewer.
And we're going to say just
Preview
once.
ready. Oh, just once. Button. Drive.
And we see
Navigate up. Button.
that visually this has been changed. So again, there are some steps to this, but what you're able to do is, because you're using that Microsoft Word document to send it to your teacher can make comments at the top or at the bottom of the file, type them right in, and you can come in as the student, as the user, and edit that math to make it look right. All right, back into my file.
Edit box.
So I pressed space with E. Let's come down to the bottom.
Bottom.
And let's do number 3. So I'm going to write number 3.
Dots 2, 5,
enter.
6.
And we're going to come back
3.
into KeyMath, and we're going to make a new image, and a new math image. And I'm going to show you how to use the symbol selector and also the template selector. So if I press backspace with M, we will come into a new blank KeyMath window.
Edit box. Blank.
All right, and now
Nemeth. Math type
we
setting
are going to
mode.
say that I want to write something like, oh, let's do, how about pi equals 3.14? But I don't remember the symbol for pi, right? I don't remember what it is, or how to make a circle, or the greater than or equal to sign, or whatever it is. There's a symbol I don't know in either Nemeth code or UEB. Depending on what I'm set to. So right now I'm set to use Nemeth. So when I press backspace with dots 3, 5, think of the word insert, I will pull up the Nemeth code symbols table list. If I'm working in UEB, when I press backspace with 3, 5, I would pull up the UEB symbols table list. So it will determined by what your working grade is, your working Braille code, that is. So when I press backspace with 3, 5.
Symbols list. Nemeth symbols table list.
All right, now we pull up all of the symbols in Nemeth code, and I can find the appropriate symbols. So I can use my next thumb key and look at these categorized. They're going to be broken up into different categories. Pi is, if I look at these,
Numbers.
not a number.
Comparison
Not
symbols.
a comparison sign. That would be our greater than, less than, all of that kind of stuff.
Greek
It
symbols.
is a Greek symbol, I'll tell you that. But I could keep going and see fractions and all sorts of other things that might have their symbols. I press enter on Greek symbols here.
Sampi.
And then I will see the symbol followed by the tab sign, which is a 1, 2, 4, 6 T. And then I will see the actual symbol. So Sampi would be a 4, 6 C. So if I find pi here, I'm going to press P.
Phi.
We don't want phi. That would be a 4, 6 F. Let's press P again.
Pi.
You see pi, and then I see that it is again, the tab sign, and then 46p. So I think, oh my gosh, pi is 46p. So I can remember that for next time. If I press enter on it,
Edit box.
it puts it
Blank.
into this KeyMath line of math. So pi, and I'm going to write space.
Braille space dot K dots dot 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 dots 2 5 6.
All right, now space with C. We'll read this out loud.
Pi equals 3.14.
Kaboom. And then when I press enter, that visual will show up.
New line.
So again, the symbol selector, it's not a teaching tool, but it's a reference tool. If we don't remember how to make a certain sign, like a shape or a right arrow or something, right? The closing fraction sign or something, we can absolutely get that to be input for us. The other thing we have, and this is very, very rarely used, but it could come in very handy, is the template selector. And what this is if I find myself doing something over and over and over, maybe I'm doing various Pythagorean theorem, or I'm doing the quadratic equation, I can build a template so that I can insert it into KeyMath and then just change the values of the numbers that I'm working with. So, and you'll see what I mean when I press enter with IN. So again, think of insert, but we're inserting a symbol. I'm sorry, we're not inserting a symbol, we're inserting a template. So with backspace and IN, we're putting in that symbol. Enter with IN, we're putting in a template that we might want to refer to. So if I press enter with IN.
Key files. Cubic root of 8.
Now, there are some different templates that are saved here by default. And the first one here is cubic root of 8. Again, these will be in Nemeth code. If you're in UEB, these will be in UEB math. But the cubic root of 8,
graph dash circle
graphs here.
Graph dash
Pressing my next thumb key.
integral 0 to infinity dot BRL.
And you'll see these are BRL files, because what happens is when I press enter on one of these, it will drop it into my equation. Let's just say I'm going to come all the way to the bottom. I think I have
Xovry.brl, trigonometric sigma sum.brl, polynomial equation.brl.
The polynomial equation. Let's say I'm working with polynomials in class, and I'm going to be using the polynomial equation over and over and over for whatever reason to show my work. If I press enter here,
edit box, blank,
it drops it into my line of math. So now my line of math becomes,
dots 3 Braille space dot 5,
y equals a squared plus bx plus c. And I can change the values by routing my cursor of A, B, or C. So again, this is very, very, very kind of, not something that everyone's going to use. But if we look at these templates, or we need to create a template, we can do that. There's a folder in key files called KeyMath, and within there is both a Nemeth and a UEB, and we can create and save Braille files to be used as templates should we need to use these on a test. I came across one time, I was up in Canada and I was working with a student. Who knows, maybe you are out there, you will remain nameless, but seeing this changed the whole dynamic of what was being worked on in the math class, because we were using I think it was quadratics, and we were able to put in a template for the quadratics, and it made it so much easier to fill in A, B, and C. So you don't have to keep typing y equals blah 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 blah, right? Just being able to drop these in makes it a little bit easier. So again, when I press enter,
new line,
this was my template, y equals ax squared plus b plus c, and I could change the values of A, B, and C, and so on, and do what I need to do. Again, I would export this and paste it into my file. Then I would save and share that with my teacher using Keymail or using Gmail or using Drive. I might attach it to a classroom assignment, whatever it's going to be, many of those pieces that we've covered in previous parts of this HumanWare Live with Braille series. So again, a very quick run through of how we utilize math, both creating math in KeyMath, how we export, and then how we paste math into Keyword. Secondly, how we're able to edit math that we've already entered, routing our cursor to the beginning of the image, pressing backspace with M to pull that math back into KeyMath, to pull all that content, making our corrections, exporting, and then deleting the old image and pasting in the new image. The last thing I want to show before I throw this over to Andrew is, why do we put the numbers where we do in our documents? Why am I writing number 1 period and then pressing enter? and then doing an image, and then pressing enter and writing number 2 period and pressing enter. And I'll show you again, for us as blind people, it doesn't matter. But
Edit box.
here,
End
if
of
I
document.
change this file, so right now I'm back in my keyword document, and if I take out the blank line between number 1 and the image,
Selection cleared.
what you will see is, okay, I got rid of it. Now I just got rid of this blank line. Now visually, when I show this document, the visual of this document, and Andrew, I want you to jump in here to actually drill it home for those of us who can't see the screen. If I don't put a blank line between the literary number, right, and the actual image of math, what happens is, let's generate this.
End of field. Open with Drive PDF viewer. Preview ready.
What happens
Just
is
Drive. Navigate
this
up.
then looks crazy because it tries to line it. It looks even worse if you have fractions and spatial math, but the number itself will then be placed almost at the bottom of the image, right, Andrew?
Yeah, it doesn't look, it's not aligned correctly. Yeah.
It looks pretty crazy. So again, if you're seeing this on your students' work, you're thinking, okay, let's put some blank lines in between. Let's press enter. Let's number our problems within the keyword document and do the math in KeyMath. All right, I am going to press space with E.
Edit box.
I'm going to come out of here.
1.
I am going to come back to my main menu, and then I'm going to toss it over to, I can't do the intro like it was done. I would love to just broadcast and scream your name like we're at a basketball game, but we're not. But throw it over to Andy. Thanks, Andy.
Well, thanks, Peter. That was a great session on how to do key maths with keyword. Now, what's coming up now, what I'm about to show is how we can get math content to a student on a BrailleNote Touch. This is something that gets frequently asked, sometimes gets forgotten. Maybe people don't realize that we can do this, but how we can import math content into the BrailleNote Touch. Now, firstly, you will need some experience using MathType or something similar. So that's really important. You need the correct tools to do this. MathType is an add-on math editor that goes on to Microsoft Word. There are other editor programs that you can use. XML editor, I think, is another one. And some of you may already be using MathType. The second tool that you will need is Duxbury. Now, Duxbury is going to be the tool that will translate all of the math content correctly into a Braille file, and then we're going to be able to open up that Braille file on our BrailleNote Touch, whether it be the Touch or the Touch Plus, using the application called KeyBRF. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. I'm just going to do some simple equations here. Okay, so here's my Word document, and I've already created some templates, but first of all, let's call this fractions and roots. Okay, and now I'm going to question 1. And on the top then, once you've installed MathType, on the top of your dialog box of Windows, we have MathType that will be created. I'm just going to go and use the inline equation. And some of you may already be able to use this before. And what that will show, I'll just bring my box over. Bring that into picture, there we go. Here we can start doing some equations. And so here's one thing I've done already, created a fraction. So I'm going to add that one to my equation, close that. And question 2, I'm going to again press the inline and choose, let's do the square root 16. And question 3, we're going to add the cube root of 8. Okay, so it's really important when you are dealing with math content and you want to translate into correct Braille, you will need to use this. If you do not use MathType or anything similar, then the translation purely is not going to work. Okay, so once you've done your maths equations, we're going to save this. So I'm going to save this into my webinar test documents, call this fractions and cube roots. Already done that, so I'm going to replace it anyway. Okay, so that's now saved. Now, once you've created all of your math contents in Microsoft Word, then it's ready to open that up using Duxbury. So, and again, important when you're using Duxbury, you will need to use the full license. If you have the free version or demo version, it's not going to work, I'm afraid. So when you open up Duxbury, I'm going to go to File. I'm going to open. I'm going to choose the document, the text document, the docx document, which is fractions and cube roots, and open. Now, once you open that, you'll then get asked a question from Duxbury. This is a really important stage. Now, it depends on if your student is learning UEB or Nemeth. Okay, so at the moment it's asking us, well, how would you like to translate this document? Would you like to translate it using UEB, or would you like to use Nemeth? This is where you get to choose. So the first bit where it says the template section, we can either choose Banner with Nemeth, or we can use UEB Basic. I'm going to, for this demo, just choose UEB. The bottom section where it says import filter, we do not touch. We leave that as it is. It should be OpenXML and Word 2007. So we don't need to go anywhere near that section. Just a template of how you want to translate that, whether it be UEB or whether it be Banner or Nemeth, sorry. So I'm going to choose UEB. I'm going to press OK. Now what it's done now, it's brought in the print. Now it doesn't look, if those that can see the print here, it doesn't look like it's the correct fractions and the correct cube roots, etc. But when I translate, so if I hit File and Translate, this is where the magic happens. So here we can now see all in Braille the correct translation. So we have the 1, and then we have our fraction. We then have question number 2, and we then have the square root, and then question number 3. So all using the correct translation tools here.
And I've verified from my end that the UEB with Nemeth context works as well here.
Now I'm also going to do the same. Those that are doing the Nemeth, I'll also do the same here. So I'm going to just do this again and exit out. I'm going to start Duxbury again. So now we're going to use the Nemeth so that you can see what it appears like in Nemeth. So again, File, Open. I choose the file, the docx document. I then get prompted with the import file option again. So how do I want to import this? On this time, I'm going to use Banner with Nemeth and press OK. Now this time, visually, the print looks a bit different. But again, that's not important to me. What is important to me is the Braille. So I'm going to go to File, Translate, and boom, there we have it. And there we have the translation of that document now set to Nemeth. The next part of this, once you've translated this document, is then to save it as a BRF file. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. Now the drop box where it says Save As type, make sure that you click on here and not save it as a DBT. So you do have various different options here. I always choose the formatted Braille local encoding BRF. You can also use the US encoding. I don't think there's a big difference there. Don't quote me on that, but I always use the local encoding here of BRF. And here we can choose the name. So I'm going to keep it set to fractions and cube roots. I already have one there, but it would ask me to replace. I'm going to say yes. And that's now saved as a BRF. So once you've saved it as a BRF, you can then save that to a USB pen, maybe send it as an email to your student, or even save it to Google Drive. And then what will happen is the student will be able to open that file using KeyBRF. So I'm going to show you that stage now. So bear with me 1 minute. I'm just going to connect up my.
And what you'll notice, so while Andrew hooks up his gets his sharing going, when you open this, and so for those of you who are Braille readers, it's Nemeth in UEB context, for instance, right? Your number is going to be written in UEB, so number, sign, A, and then a period. But then you'll have your Nemeth code start, so your 456, 146, and after your Nemeth content, you have your 456, 156, just like, you know, which follows those rules. So
200 HCA IP 265 connected.
Oh, that is Andrew. It's coming on through, but it will let us, you know, it will let us then kind of look at that Nemeth code in that proper context. I'm going to be quiet now, Andrew.
Okay.
Connected devices. Car settings. Connect my menu.
So the
Amazon
second,
Music.
so the next stage is once you've got the Braille file, I've already got one prepared, as I do earlier. It's been sent to me via email, and it's been saved into the downloads folder. I can now go to
Braille
my
Notepad. KeyBRF.
KeyBRF application. Okay, so it's saying Braille Notepad here because I've got the latest version where you can customize your home screen. And when you move your KeyBRF application to your home screen, it does change the name to Braille Notepad KeyBRF. But if you can't find it, it's under all applications. So go to all applications. I'll do that for
All
you
applications.
now. And then go to
Main menu all
KeyBRF.
apps. And the
Just press the
KeyBRF.
letter K and you'll jump to KeyBRF. Now in KeyBRF, you then have
menu.
two options, create and open. I'm going to open because I've already got an existing BRL file.
Key files.
Navigate
The
to
soft
the
underscore
folder.
apps
So
folder.
general file management tips here is when you're using the file manager, what I always encourage is always start at the very beginning. Go back to your drive list, space with the letter D.
Drive selection.
To that drive.
Storage.
You choose your drive list, which is my
Go
storage.
to alarms folder.
And it's saved under
Android
my
sign for documents for download folder.
Enter on
Web
there.
for soft underscore apps
Here
folder.
we should have
Functions and fractions. Web fractions and cube roots dot bottom.
the Nemeth
Fractions and cube roots dot BRF.
Let's open up this one.
Edit box.
And there we have it. We can now read that all in Braille. Now, obviously, it's not going to be showing the print here. But what we're really trying to showcase here is that a student from a distance point of view can access math content. So at this point, they can read all their math contents using the KeyBRF app, and then they can revert to using keyword to answer the equations.
Yep. The other piece of this that's, you know, and again, Andrew, you can show just if you tap that square key, it will bring up all of your open apps. Or if you press space with dots 2, 3, 5 on both the Touch or the Touch Plus. So space with 2, 3, 5 on either unit will bring up that recent apps list, and you can quickly move between KeyMath and Keyword. So you're showing your work in Keyword, and maybe you're in, you're in KeyBRF, reading your work.
Instant Play Store, Quick Support, Teams, Word Processor,
yeah, another useful tip is
Keyword
well,
menu.
if you want to
Create.
Completely, you know, to change between KeyBRF and Keyword,
Edit
just
box.
create a
End of
Keyword
document.
document now, and that's contextual menu. If you've got the Touch Plus, you can double tap that square button.
Recent
pretty
apps.
quick.
My menu.
And
Amazon
then
Braille Notepad. Edit box.
open up your second app. I can now
Recent
switch between.
apps. My menu. Amazon Music.
I'm using. So,
I think your beta's killing you.
yeah, it's my beta.
So what Andrew's saying is if you have KeyBRF open and you want to quickly move to Keyword, and it was the last app you opened, and this will work between any
Amazon Music. Main menu.
recent apps.
Contacts. Key list. Key instant. Word process planner. Word process edit box. End of document. Recent apps. My menu. And break email. File manager. Inflex Teams. Word Pro Zoom. All applications Zoom. All applications. Main menu. All
Always
apps.
have been on a beta.
KeyBRF. KeyBRF. Edit box. Recent apps. Main menu. All apps. Amazon Kindle. My menu. Amazon Music.
I wonder if it's I don't know if it's probably because it's on your beta, because mine basically when you double tap that square, you will quickly move between your two most recent apps. So if it was Keymail and Chrome, or it was KeyBRF and Keyword, tap tap and you will float between them. If that doesn't work, just bring up your recent apps list and just move between them.
Okay, so just to summarize then on how to bring math into the BrailleNote Touch, make sure that you have the correct tools. I'm using Microsoft Word with MathType. MathType is the math editor program that I'm using to create my equations. Once you've created those equations, then save that as a standard docx document, open that back up with Duxbury, and then using Duxbury, you'll be asked, what would you like to translate, how you would like to translate that, whether it be UAB, whether it be Nemeth, choose whichever one you want, and then save that as a BRF file. Once you save that as a BRF file, you can then open up that contents on the Touch or the Touch Plus using the KeyBRF application.
Beautiful.
Okay.
All right. Now, let's what we need to really work on is, I think, Andrew, we need to have an outro made that'll like throw it over to questions time, but we're not that cool. We haven't
Not yet.
taken it that far, but we do want to, I noticed there were some raised hands. We can try to, let's take a couple. Are there any text Q&As first, Andrew, before we open it up to the
Yes,
unmuting?
we have a few. Okay, so Okay. Can you show how to go in and out of calculator when using KeyMath? Okay, well, this is pretty answered again, answered from Peter. You can use your contextual button, the square shaped button, to double tap. If you open up your calculator first, then open up KeyMath, you can then toggle between the two. If you want to know how to quickly insert a calculation, fortunately, that's not just available yet. We are making some improvements to KeyCalc, which I'm sure you're going to love, and we'll showcase that on one of our future webinars. But for now, you can use that.
Just use your app switcher. Use your recent apps list to move between KeyMath. If you're in KeyMath and you want to go into KeyCalc and so on, you're definitely going to want to use your dropped F or 256 with spacebar. I would recommend doing it that way.
Okay, another question. Are we able to use Braille blasters if we don't have Duxbury at home? It's a very good question. I tried to use Braille Blaster. I was unable to bring in the docx document. Maybe it's something that I was doing wrong. I'm not saying that you're not going to be able to do that, but it may be worth trying to review how you can bring in text documents into Braille Blaster. This is something I didn't do. So I will investigate that more. And if you want to ask that question, please email us at humanwarelive@humanware.com. That will give me a reminder to certainly check that for you.
And then Nancy asked on the chat side, how do you get math from KeyBRF into Keyword? You do not. You do not put math from KeyBRF into Keyword. The math in KeyBRF, when you're reading that document, that is for consuming content. So you're creating that, your student is consuming that content, and then your student or your user is showing work in KeyMath and pasting it into Keyword. So you're not taking math that was in KeyBRF and putting it into Keyword.
Okay, some questions regarding what are the commands to insert. I know there was a bit of confusion where you're using backspace IN or enter IN. All of these commands are available in the contextual menu. So at that given point, if you're unsure of what the command is, just simply press space with M, or you can press and hold on the contextual menu if you're using Touch Plus, or a single press if you're using the basic touch. And that will bring up your contextual menu to display either insert symbol or insert template.
Yep,
okay.
All those shortcuts are there. No need to memorize.
Okay, so can you copy problems and paste in keyword when answering questions? Can they copy problems and paste in keyword when answering questions?
I think what that's going for is, so I'm guessing that what you're wanting to do is somehow see the actual problem visually. In theory, you could copy that from KeyBRF and paste it into KeyMath and then answer the question below, but you're going to start to really mess with your workflow when you start introducing kind of that three-way split. I would strongly recommend keeping, much like if you had a hard copy, right, of your math, you have it embossed, which is the ultimate, right? We always want to have that if we can. But right now, these are times where we can't necessarily get that. So you're going to keep it in KeyBRF, you're going to read it there, and you're going to kind of employ your answering and pasting into keyword using KeyMath. You're not going to bring KeyBRF content and then answer it below, because then you start to add you need to know how to copy and paste, and you also need to know, right, that has to stay as Nemeth or UEB and so on. So the short answer is no, but there are long-winded reasons for why.
So there's a lot of questions coming in here. So what happens if a math teacher sends the student a worksheet as a MS Word file? Can the student open that directly, or does the TVI have to translate it first?
The TVI is going to have to translate, because what will happen is Andrew, you can step on this one. I mean, it's not going to translate properly unless you're using those Duxbury tools. And even with that, you really need to look at it and proofread it. If you have anything outside of basic plus and minus sort of math, it is not going to look good when it comes down to it. You need to use the Braille translator. But go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And I mean, if the teacher has already used some kind of math editor program like MathType, then great. That's most of the work done. All that you need to do is open that up using Duxbury, translate that using either UEB or Nemeth, and then save that as a Braille file. Okay, shall we go to some voices?
Let's do it.
Speak to someone. Let's see who's on the line. Okay, let's see who's raised their hands. We have Nicholas. Nicholas. Hello, Nicholas. Where are you from, Nicholas?
Oh, it's my favorite part of the program. Faith and confidence, Nicholas.
Okay, Nicholas. Hello. No.
We're gonna do a 3, 2, 1. If you're muted, Alt M. If you're on the computer, if you bring up the chat window, Alt M will unmute you. There is a unmute button on your iPhones, and if you can't find it, we're gonna move along. 3.
Okay, let's go to. We're gonna move on. We're gonna go to the blind educator. Blind educator. What's your name? Where you're from?
Hello.
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 Couple questions. First one, if you are doing math in your BrailleNote and you have words and numbers mixed in for your answer, are you able to switch back and forth while in Nemeth mode or in math mode?
That is an awesome question. So the answer is you need to write those out in grade 1 Braille, because when you're in KeyMath, it's interpreting the symbols and everything written as Nemeth. So if you need to write words, you want to spell those words out. You would not write those in UEB because you will throw the whole thing into a mess. If you're doing long word problems and you just needed to enter like one fraction, what I would do is I would write the words you need to write and then paste the picture of the fraction and then write more words, just paste that one image. But in general, if you're looking to mix words in, just write them in grade 1 Braille inside KeyMath before you export.
Okay, and my second question is, if we are needing to find Braille signs and how to Braille them on math mode, and we do not know exactly what category they would fit in, is there like a search mode? We can just type in the operator or the sign that we need for
So
them
not here. You cannot search. However, there is a tool online that is called the Nemeth Code Searchable Database, and I would strongly recommend you go look at that. It was created by Susan Osterhaus and Sarah Larkin and some very well-known Braille mathematicians and Braille wizards. But I would look at the Nemeth Code Searchable Database online to really, if you're just that unsure of where something might live.
But what you can do in the symbol selector is first letter navigation still. So if you know what the actual symbol is called, pressing that initial letter could potentially jump you to that.
Right.
I mean, like, for example, when you guys were going through pi, you guys had to go to the Greek symbols, but if you were in the very beginning, like say basic math and the comparisons and stuff, can you do pi there and it would take you straight to the
eventually it would. You'd go through a lot of P's. But yeah, eventually it would
Lock
get you there.
screen off.
Gotcha. That's kind of okay. Thanks.
No problem.
Okay, so we have then Christian Bertlin. Christian Bertlin, hello.
Oh, Mr. Christian, down there.
Peter, can you hear me?
Sure can, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Great.
So I just kind of, Peter, so is there a way that I can like join the beta, or is that just a thing that y'all have?
That would be a question for Mr. Andrew Flatris, our product manager. Andrew Flatris.
Yeah, Christian. So by all means, if you just want to send us an email to that HumanWare@humanware.com, I'll then answer some questions, sort of use case. At the moment, the beta channel is full, but very much like to get a lot more, expand the beta channel for sure. So just send us an email, Christian, and I'll email you back.
Yep. HumanWare Live at humanware.com. Yes.
Okay, next one is Lorelei.
Lorelei.
Hello.
Hello.
So I wanted to know, when I open when I do the backspace with M for the second problem, usually there's for whatever reason, my BrailleNote keeps the image from the first problem. Do I need to clear that? Am I missing a step, or is my BrailleNote
What I'm thinking,
restart?
No, what I'm thinking happens, Lorelei, I'm thinking that for some reason your cursor is somehow I'm not sure. Make sure your cursor is in an empty space, because the only
did.
way that it should pull it is if it's on the beginning of that first image. I accidentally did that when I was doing this webinar. So
Yeah, I went to the, like, I heard you accidentally do it, so I went to the bottom of my document to see if this would, you know, fix
if
my
it's doing it, what
issue.
you can do is just do a full cell with enter and just select all and just backspace it and dump it out and just start your new image, because it should be totally blank when you press backspace with M.
Okay, so just do that full cell with enter and backspace.
Yeah, I would do a full
like
cell with
backspace
enter
with C.
and just press backspace. Just press backspace once you have it all selected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So just
'Cause
that
it
extra
shouldn't-
step will fix my
Yeah, it'll fix it. It won't do anything. And then just make sure when you're pasting your content, just make sure your cursor is below that where you want it to be. Make sure you're not like putting images above other images. And
Yeah,
things.
no, I'm super thorough about that. I'm a little bit OCD about my Braille editing. So
No worries.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Do a few
So,
more.
We have IZR. IZR. What's your name? Where you from? IZR. Hello. Hello.
Nope.
Nope.
Hello.
Oh,
there
there
we
you
go.
go. Whoa, you showed
Hello.
up.
Oh,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Sure
We can.
Okay, thank you. Is there a way to paste is there a way to paste a KeyMath image into Google Drive?
There is not, Mr. Isaac, not yet, buddy, because
Okay.
what happens is when you try to do that, it takes the HTML code and it goes insane. Have you tried it?
Oh,
I know
no.
you have. Oh,
No.
I'm shocked. I thought you would have tried it. What'll happen is it'll bring all sorts of HTML code. So it's a picture, and Google Docs does not know how to interpret that picture. If you need to get this into Drive, you can share the docx file up into Drive, but you can't put this math into a Google Doc.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay. We have Brady27. Hello, Brady27. Chris Brady.
Chris Brady.
Hello,
Hello.
This is-
Hello.
Chris Brady. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes, we can.
You can. I was wondering when you were doing the demonstration, if you were in Word and you wanted to put equations in and write it in Word, will Word use, can you use JAWS with Word as you put in stuff in?
Like
when
with
you-
math type?
Yeah.
You know, it's a really good question. I am positive somebody out there has an answer for this. I've done it a while ago, but if there's anyone who wants to throw it into the chat, if they're aware as a JAWS user, if you've ever used math type, I know there were parts of it that were accessible, but I don't know if the whole thing is. Do you know, Andrew?
I
with
don't
a
know.
screen
I can't.
reader, if you can use math type? So
I'm going to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure. I guess if someone can put that on the chat, there's something
Right.
that's just come up on now.
So, yeah, and someone said they used the LaTeX editor, which in theory should work. There's a way to do it in math
Yeah,
type.
that's
Yeah. Cool. So in theory, yes, it should work, but I think you'll have to do a little bit of digging with Vispero in terms of how and what sorts of innate accessibility is built in there. So.
Because you were using, with Word, you were using, is that what you were using, math type or something, before you
He
put
was
it
using, yeah, Andrew was using math type.
Yeah.
But Andrew's cited, so he did that part
That's
of the
right.
program,
I
and I did
noticed
not.
that because it was using the mouse to bring up different
Exactly.
things.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But any
Thanks so
type
much.
of math editor will be fine.
Yep.
But, okay.
So what math?
Sorry there, Chris, say again.
What other math editor could you use with Word then?
So I think Nicholas from the chat said the LaTeX editor.
Yep.
There are other editor programs that you can get. XML editor is another one that you could use. It's just choosing the right one for you and making sure that it is accessible through screen readers.
And then making sure that it can play nicely with Word, because again, even you just want to make sure that it's actually going to be able to be opened by Duxbury. You have moving parts here that are definitely way out of our control. So you're going to have to do a little bit of digging on that side, just to see.
Yeah.
But I would recommend there's always a way.
This maths thing is a whole new thing for me, because I was never any good at maths.
Me either. Trust me.
I had to struggle, but still.
But it is something we're aware of. I mean, we'd love to look at making this a more simplified process as we go forward, right? Being able to consume content in very simple ways. So to maybe take away the need for the Braille translator or other things. You never know where we can take this as we kind of move down the line. But
no, that's true. I know other features that you use on the BrailleNote Touch, for example. Like last week, you were doing things with taking editable content from a non-editable area, and using your TTS to actually copy it into a document and things. I find that extremely useful.
Great.
That's good.
That's awesome.
Good to hear.
We love it. Thanks for your feedback. And HumanWare Live at humanware.com. Also, if you have feedback, please float it our way.
HumanWare Live at humanware.com.
Rock and roll.
Okay. Thanks so much.
All right, we'll do two more.
Cheers.
Okay, so we have Emily Miller. Emily Miller.
Emily Miller, it's your time to shine. How's it going?
Good. How are y'all?
We're living the dream.
Very well.
So I wanted to ask, is there just for like in the chat, if anyone has any suggestions, because I'm gonna have to take a math class in a couple semesters, and if anyone has any suggestions, or if y'all do for like for you being able to use my BrailleNote in like the math classroom with like what y'all are talking about today, because I'm not sure if like my professor would have access to like Duxbury or anything like.
So what I'd recommend
set that up.
What you're going to want to do, Emily, you really will want to work. So I took math in college, and I'm sure there are many people on here who have. You really want to work with your Disability Services Center and make sure that you're able to have someone convert that into hard copy Braille for you and send you the BRF files. So work with your Disability Resource Center. Your professor is not going to know how to do that. Unless they are really, really hardcore and really want to do some problem solving. But I highly doubt. You're really going to want to work with your disability services and your Disability Resource Center to get that content created for you. Not just for math, but for sometimes you'll need it for chemistry or for various any sort of math and science. It's really important that you work with your Disability Resource Center even before class starts to make sure that you guys have a good system so that you can receive work and then you can show your work to your professors using something like KeyMath. But it would be good to definitely look into it that way. And I would strongly recommend doing that.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I was just wondering if any like.
Yeah, we shall see.
Yeah, and then I was just saying, Andrew, I'll probably be emailing you because I want to join the beta thing when there's space available in the channel.
Yeah, by all means, just send us an email, Emily.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take one more. Question.
Okay. We have Derek. Hello, Derek.
Derek.
Hello.
You are on, my friend. Hello.
Hello. I have a question. So for all of the information that you gave out today, will it be able to be accessed on the HW Buddy app as an easier reference to getting to it? Because I was taking notes and
so
it would be
absolutely. So the under keyword, there's a document that there's documents that talk about math. There are documents that kind of will walk you through these steps. This will also be archived on the HW Buddy app. So you can also get to it from our website under support. But it will be archived, and all of these steps are spelled out as well. So there is a document, and there are videos as well, snapshot tutorials on kind of how to put math in files. But it is all written.
All right. Also, I was missing it a little bit. How did you delete the previous image, like when you were editing the
Love
problem?
it. Absolutely. So when you go back into keyword and you want, right, you've put your cursor on the start of the image, you've gone into KeyMath, you've made your edits, you've exported, and your focus is still on the old bad image that we don't want. Press backspace with 3-6. That is the command to delete what is right under your cursor. In that case, your image is what's under your cursor. So backspace with 3-6 will and then it will say, do you want to delete your current object?
All right.
All right.
Been glad seeing you both today.
It's been awesome. Come on in anytime. We are coming up on Thursday. I think we're going to be looking at Easy Reader, and we're going to be looking at folder and file management, right, Andrew?
That's right.
Yes,
Yep. But in the meantime,
I heard a friend of mine receiving emails about that. I don't really receive emails from HumanWare. How would I be able to?
If you send an email to HumanWare Live at humanware.com, we'll make sure that you're on a list. But you can also, if you follow us on Facebook, or if you know that we put a lot of things out there. So if you don't want to get all of our announcements, you can always follow us on Facebook, and you'll see all the links and things too.
Alrighty.
So we will cover on Thursday, everybody, 12 Eastern here in the US, 11 Central, 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific. We'll come back with another episode of HumanWare Live. Yes, you will get to hear that awesome intro once again, hopefully with a little zippiness to it at the end. And then we will cover Easy Reader Plus, looking at how we can download and work with Bookshare books, working with navigating those books, searching for text, bookmarking, all of that fun stuff. And then working with files and folders. How do we rename? How do we copy? How do we delete? How do we work with multiple files? So we'll be doing that on Thursday, and then we'll be back next week and the week after, and hopefully we'll be done at some point soon, right? And then we'll still do this, but we want to get to a point where we can come see everybody in person and help in different ways. So thank you for coming. And Andrew, how do you want to end this?
Well, I just want to finish off by saying that HumanWare Buddy app is now available on the iOS store and the Play Store. If you've got an Android device, you can search for the HumanWare Buddy app. Best keywords to use is HumanWare. That should take you directly to the application if you're using the Play Store. Yeah, download it, install it. We have many users now talking about it. It's there to assist you. And just give us some feedback. I mean, we believe there could be some more improvements that could be made in the app for sure. But we want to make sure that all this content is available to you all. So, without further ado, stay safe, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day, whatever time that you're in.
Or whenever you're hearing this.
It's my dinner time.
That's right. Enjoy supper, Andrew. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Take care.